What up, what up? It's your man, Big Brandon Carter. So I've always been interested in sales and marketing, right? Like my dad was a salesman, he worked in sales. He taught me a lot of like tactics and techniques. I've read like probably 25% of the books behind me, maybe more are like sales and marketing books. When I was in college, I majored in marketing. And during the summers, I had an internship with Abbott Laboratories, Fortune 500 pharmaceutical company. And I had some really good managers, like some really good teachers and mentors who taught me a lot about sales and a lot about marketing during my time with Abbott. I really became good at it. I learned all the techniques. Then after school, I've talked about in other videos, I had some series of bad decisions, trials and tribulations. I ended up in some other kind of businesses selling some things that were less than scrupulous up and down I-95. This was a long time ago, way past the statute of limitations. I mean, way past it. I'm on the up and up now. But what I want to say is, when I was selling grams, I didn't need none of those sales tactics. I didn't need to know shit about marketing. I didn't need to know shit about sales. People came to me. The customers were, my phone was blowing up, text messages round the clock, right? I could not get the product fast enough to supply demand. The shit sold itself. And what I realized was, all the fucking sales shit, all the marketing shit becomes obsolete if your product is good. You don't need it if your product is good. Or if people really want your product. People really want what you have. If people really want what you have, you don't have to sell them. You do not have to convince them of anything. All right, like check it out. If you study like PUA, pickup artists, they teach you game, right? Marketing experts teach you marketing. Sales experts teach you sales. So sales, marketing, game, these are all tactics you use to convince someone to want to fuck with you. If you're good enough, this is what I learned. If people want what you have and your shit is exceptional, you don't have to convince anybody of anything. In fact, they will try to convince you to give them what you have. They will try to sell you on them. You know what I'm saying? When I was moving grams, people would be like, they would call, can you sell this to me? They would beg me to sell to them. And they would try to make deals and shit. And I'm like, wait a minute, man, I don't negotiate. I didn't need none of the fucking rules when I was moving grams. All right, all that, I didn't need any of that. I didn't need to build rapport with the customer. I didn't need to go prospecting. I didn't need to explain the features and the benefits. I broke all the fucking rules and was still making money, man. Was still, making sales. Because the shit was good enough. People wanted it. And if your shit is good enough, people will try to sell you. Like, people would be like, oh man, can I get, if I buy this much, can I get it for this much? Like, no man, I don't negotiate. I don't have to negotiate with you. Get the fuck out of here. I don't fucking negotiate with base heads. What's the matter with you? But when you're selling some shit that people don't really want or don't really need or don't want bad, then you have to convince them. Then marketing, sales, game, all that shit becomes essential. For instance, there's like restaurants in New York that do no marketing, no advertising, none of that shit. All right? And if you try to get a reservation, you have to get reservations months in advance. They're booked because the food is so excellent, the service is so excellent. They have a reputation. People will wait for fucking months just to have a dinner there. And contrast that with McDonald's. Nobody fucking loves McDonald's. Most people don't love McDonald's. And because people don't really fucking love it, no one gets excited about McDonald's. They have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on advertising to get you to buy that bullshit, right? The less people want your product, the more you need the tactics, sales, marketing, Like, think of like a real hot chick, a real beautiful girl. You look at her Instagram. Look at the pictures. Look at the comments. You think she's trying to sell you on her? No, people are trying to sell. People are trying to sell themselves to her. If you got what people want, you do not need to convince anybody of anything. When some new Jordans come out, kids line up in front of Foot Locker or Sports Authority the night before. Motherfuckers sleep in line or don't sleep, they just stand in line the night before. So as soon as it opens, they can get Jordans. And then they only let you buy one pair. They won't even let you buy as many as you want. You can go to McDonald's and buy as many fucking Big Macs as you want. No one's gonna stop you. If people want what you have and your shit is good enough, you do not have to convince anybody of anything. So I'm not saying you shouldn't learn marketing. I'm not saying you shouldn't learn sales. I'm not saying you shouldn't learn game. But your job will be so much easier if you're awesome. If you're amazing, if you focus on making yourself as good as you can be, becoming a better man, a better person, or if you're selling a product, make your product better. You know what I'm saying? Make your service better if you're selling a service. If you focus on that, then the marketing will be so much easier. It'll be so much, you won't have to convince people as much, is what I'm trying to say. It won't be so hard. I heard Elon Musk, the CEO, billionaire CEO of Tesla Motors, and he was talking about they don't spend any money on marketing. All the money that other car companies spend on marketing, they spend on more research, more development, more design, you know, just to make the product the best it can be, so they can put out the best product. And then the marketing kind of takes care of itself, man. People just want it because it's so much better than everything else. I remember when the iPhone first came out, people were lining up, man, because it was so much better than anything. The hottest phone before that was a fucking Motorola Razr, but the iPhone was so ahead of its time that people lined up around the fucking block for that shit, man. I remember that here in Manhattan, in front of each Apple store, people were lined up around the fucking block with little advertising. They did little advertising initially, because if your shit is good enough, if people want it bad enough, you don't have to fucking try hard to convince them. I once heard Brian Tracy say, you can tell how good you are at your job by how many people try to hire you away from your job, how many competitors try to hire you. Right? He said if you're really excelling in your position, then you will have job offers consistently. You know what I'm saying? You won't have to put your shit on Monster.com, and you won't have to go around with a resume and a suit. You know what I'm saying? If you're fucking good at what you do, people will come to you. That's the point I'm trying to make. It's like, just for example, like last year I was working at my boy's restaurant. I was the weekend manager at the restaurant, and multiple times, man, people who had other restaurants or would give me job offers, man, because I was just, talking to the customers. I was personable, going up to tables, asking how they were doing, cracking jokes and shit. And one guy, he owned a BMW dealership in Queens, man. He offered me a job. I just didn't want to get involved in that shit. But that's the point I'm trying to make. Like, if you're good at what you're doing, man, people will try to fucking hire you. If you're not that good, or if you're just average, then you're gonna have to do the shit everybody does when trying to get the job. Monster.com, yeah, you're gonna have to go on interviews. You're gonna have to do a bunch of shit. Go on a bunch of interviews, go see but you don't have to do all that shit if you're awesome. If you're awesome, people will come to you. You can always tell who got the goods in a situation by who's trying to sell the other person, right? If you watch Shark Tank, like initially, almost 90% of the time, the people are trying to sell the sharks. They're explaining all the features and the benefits, and they're explaining what they got going on, and the sharks are listening and asking questions, and whatever. But every once in a while, somebody has a fucking awesome business or an awesome idea or awesome app, and then the sharks are trying to sell him. Now they're fighting over each other, trying to get this guy the best deal because he got the goods. That's what I'm trying to say, man. It's like when people are trying to convince you, that's a position of power. When you're so good that people are trying to convince you, now you have the position of power. That's where you want to be. That's where you want to be. You can learn tactics, you can learn sales, marketing, right? But if your shit is good enough, you won't need it. And the same thing with game too. Like, I know the pickup artists, they're all about game. People always ask me about that shit, but if your shit is good enough, man, you don't need that. Like or you don't need it as much, at least. Like every girl I meet under age 25 is always talking about how mature she is or how she's not like other girls. Why? Because she's trying to sell herself. She's trying to sell herself. You need to be one of those guys that you need that women sell themselves to you. You need to have customers sell themselves to you. Sales, marketing, game are all tactics to convince people that you have what they want. they're good to learn. It's good to learn those things. It is very valuable, right? It's useful. But the better you are, or the better your product service are, the less you will need those. The easier it will be to make sales. You won't have to do much convincing. And if you're really, really good, people will come to you. All right. So the takeaway is that focus on being the best you can be, the best person you can be. Focus on having the best product you can have. Focus on being, if you're in the service industry, focus on giving the best service. And you'll never want customers. You'll never have to worry about prospecting or any of that. All right, peace.